mathematicians. We're now going to talk about squares. Squares combine everything from all the figures we've been talking about. Okay, so it has all the properties of parallelogram, rectangle, and rhombus. So there's a long list. All right, opposite sides, just like we've always been talking about, congruent, parallel, angles are opposite or congruent, consecutive on the same side add up to 180, diagonals bisect each other or cut each other in half. There are 4 right angles, so this is the difference from a square and a rhombus. This one, the corners are right angles. Still, the diagonals are congruent like a rhombus. There are 4 congruent sides like a rhombus. Diagonals are perpendicular. And diagonals bisect opposite angles. Okay? So we're going to use all of that to find squares. Squares are my favorite. I think they are easier because everything is like the same. So ABCD is a square, and AD is 11. Okay. So AD here is 11. So if one side is 11, I know all sides are 11. So BC must be 11. Next, it's going to ask me for AC. AC is this diagonal. Now, diagonals are not the same as the sides. However, if I cut this square in half, this corner here must be 90. So what can I use to find this diagonal side? Pythagorean theorem. Side squared plus side squared equals diagonal squared. Side squared plus side squared equals diagonal squared. I'll put a C there. So I'm using this triangle here. So I have 11 squared plus 11 squared, and that is 242. And how do I get rid of a square? Square root. So that side must be about 15.6. So this whole diagonal, 15.6. Well, if this diagonal is 15.6, BD, what must this diagonal be? Okay. Like a rectangle, diagonals are the same. So if this one is 15.6, that one must be 15.6. And lastly, EC is half. So how do I find EC? Divide it by 2. So EC is 15.6 divided by 2. And that would be 7.8. So remember, like a rectangle, diagonals are the same as each other. All 4 sides are the same, and like a rectangle, diagonals are also the same. Next, let's talk about some angles. DAB. DAB. So I'm starting here, coming over. This whole thing has to be 90. Square and rectangle, the corners are 90 degrees. AEB. AEB. When do we know that these two lines make 90 degrees, and why do they make 90 degrees? They're perpendicular. Like a rhombus, a square has perpendicular bisectors, so that would be 90 degrees. CBD, so this little one here. Well, this side cuts this angle in half, okay? And I know this big angle is 90. So if this big angle is 90, and the diagonal bisects it or cuts it in half, how can I find this little one? 90 divided by 2 is 45 degrees. Lastly, angle BAC. Again, this whole corner must be a 90 degrees. And what does this diagonal do to this angle? Cuts it in half. So BAC again would be 90 divided by 2 is 45 degrees. Go ahead and do this next one on your own. Let's see how you did. We are given TR is 17. So TR is this piece here. TR is half of PR. So this other piece must be 17. So in order to find PR, the whole thing, what did you do for that? 17 and 17 make 34. Next, it wants us to find QS, right here. Well, if PR is 34, QS is the whole thing, not half. If PR is 34, what does QS have to be? Also 34. Remember, that is a rule for squares and rectangles only. Which means QT is half of that, so it is 17 as well. Lastly, it wants us to find PQ, and that is up here. Okay. Well, I know in the middle, these would be what degree are all of these? 90. So I have a right triangle here. And PQ, is that a side or a diagonal? The diagonal, the slant. Okay. So what am I going to use if it's a right triangle? What am I going to use to find that missing side? Pythagorean theorem. Side squared plus side squared equals that slant or diagonal squared. So 17 squared plus 17 squared is 578. And how do I get rid of a squared? Square root it. That side would be about 24. I didn't mean to put that there. 24. Okay. So use Pythagorean theorem to find that missing side. So if this one's about 24, all of these four would be the same. Nice job. Angles. PRS. PRS, is that the whole angle or half of it? Half of it. So 90 divided by 2 or 45 degrees. Okay. STR. STR is right here. And what do you know about all the angles in the middle for a square or a rectangle? They're 90. Lots of 90-degree angles in a square. PSR, is this the whole angle or half of it? The whole angle, so that is 90 degrees. And lastly, QPR. QPR. Is that the whole angle or half of it? Half of it. In a square, that diagonal cuts it in half, so 45 degrees. Nice job. This next one we'll do together. We are going to have to use distance formula a lot to see if our sides are the same, if all of them are the same, or if opposite are the same. That'll help us narrow down between rhombus, square, rectangle. And then we're going to have to decide if our diagonals are perpendicular. Okay? So we're going to use that information to determine rhombus, square, or rectangle. Nice job.